Welcome to the Fire Department budget hearing. I'm joined by my colleague, Councilor Hogan, Councilor Cardwell, Councilor Gathers, Manto, Penyawa, Madam President, myself, Councilor Allen, Councilor Chose, Chief Mann and his staff. I see Director Rudd staring at me. How you doing? Good to see you. Welcome, Chief. Just take it away. Just give us an overview, and obviously,
Okay.
as you know, we will jump in when we have questions.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Thank you for allowing me the time to be here with you today and give you an overview and answer any questions that you have regarding my fiscal year 24 budget. I know Madam President left, but I was hoping I could take a few seconds just to have a moment of silence for all the firefighters that have died in the line of duty protecting the city. Our firefighters today do this same thing every day, so I just wanted to take a moment of silence for a second and remember them. Thank you. And, within this last year, we have 42 members who died in the line of duty, but the largest cities in New York State last year, over the last 12 months, have all lost members of firefighters in the line of duty. New York City, Albany, Rochester, Buffalo. And, it's kind of scary when you see some of the footage and you understand that our firefighters are put in that face of danger every day. But my goal as a fire chief is to always lead our department and make sure every taxpayer cent that we use in this particular budget will be used to effectively and efficiently keep all of our fire department personnel and firefighters safe as we provide the world-class fire and EMS that we do with our all hazards protection, so we can make sure our constituents are giving the protection that they need for our city. So what do we do? The mission of the Syracuse Fire Department is simple. Some of you, this is a few budgets. Some of you have been through this with me a few times. This is my 6th time presenting the budget, but I'm just going to start from the basics so everybody knows. Our mission is simple: to protect lives and property and to mitigate any emergency hazards. On your worst day, call us. When we get called for a 911 emergency, we'll be on the scene in Onondaga County and Region Best 2 minutes and 53 seconds to identify whatever emergency we're called for, to develop a mitigation plan, and to leave our constituents with a peace of mind so they can get back to the state of normalcy. We currently operate with 8 engines, 5 ladder trucks, each have 4 members on them. We have 1 engine company that has 6 members. They operate as an engine company with 4 people, and then they also are the station that has the ambulance, so we have 6 people over there. As you all know, the ambulance is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'll get you the data on what they're doing.
So not to cut you off, Chief, but so I know you had 1 ambulance previously, correct?
Yes, we had one. We had two ambulances. But they weren't in the rotation of answering calls all the time. We would only answer calls in extreme conditions. If AMR had a bunch of calls and then they would call 911, and the 911 center would call us and say, hey, can you put your ambulance in service? And then I would hire 2 people to come in and run it. So it was sporadic, and we never really operated it the way we're doing now. The way we're doing it now is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's just like a regular fire truck.
But is it with the one or is it with both?
It's one ambulance staffed with 2 people, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we have 2 spare ambulances now. We just got a new one because this thing is so busy. We're running the wheels off of it. So we have 3 ambulances. We're running 1. We're answering approximately 65 to 70% of the missed calls of the reason why we're even doing it. So if we put another one in service, it would actually probably answer all the problem. And
that's what I was going to ask you. So is there a way that you could run both ambulances?
I mean, we would have to put 2 more firefighters on duty, which is 8 more firefighters, and we could definitely do it. We just took on 6 paramedics. We're the largest EMS agency in the county, but our firefighters are cross-trained. They're doing firefighting, and then they're rotating onto the ambulance. So they're running so busy, we got to figure out a way to produce more paramedics, because I think we got about 32 to 35. I'm not sure of the specific number, but we have a lot of paramedics, and so we're filling a gap right now. And we're still missing approximately 25 to 30% of the calls, but I rode the ambulance a few times, and I was really impressed of their bedside manner, their response to all the calls that they're going on. So we're projected to go approximately, so far this year we went on 1,061 calls. All of last year we went on 595, but last year we were just doing a pilot program to see what this looks like, if we can actually put a dent into the situation. But like I said, if we weren't in service, all those 1,061 calls and all those 595 calls last year would have brought in 17 other ambulances services from out of the city into the county, which leads to longer response
So
times.
that's what I was going to ask you, and I know I'm getting off budget, and I'm going to be quiet in a minute. But so when you talk about 25% missed,
Yes.
so that means that we may get somebody from NAVAC.
NAVAC, yes. Fayetteville Fire Department, Eves, Waves, TLC. We're so busy, we're actually answering calls in the county because we're in the ambulance queue just like every other ambulance. We're getting dispatched, whoever is the closest, most appropriate level of care to provide patient care. If nobody is in between us and Nedro, we're going to Nedro. We're going all over the place. I don't have those specific numbers. I have them. I just don't have.
I know, I'm getting off topic,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to know when
Okay.
you talked about the calls
Yeah.
answered with the ambulance, and if we had two in rotation,
Yeah.
it would be better to pick up.
We, in my opinion, we'd answer every call that can't be answered by the private company all the time.
I think, Chief, I think counselors, not speaking for everybody, but I will be interested to hear more detail of that. So we'll set up a committee meeting so we can dive in and
All right.
hear more.
Definitely. I would need funding. I can make that happen tomorrow. So,
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay,
Let's talk about
all right.
We all need
what do you
funding.
need?
okay. All right. Yes. You know, seriously, the school district, you know, we have our cadet program we're working on them with. They already have an EMT program. I just put a letter of support to the principal to send to the State Department of Education. We need to start growing our own EMTs and paramedics, and we have the mechanism. We just need more support, funding, and a structure to get them involved because
And I think that's a very exciting topic, Chief. But
All right.
let's
Yep. Yep.
but that would be a great committee meeting.
Yep.
Let's save that for that.
All right.
I got questions.
You tell me whenever you have questions, and Mike Omans has answers. So, okay.
That's a great attitude, Chief.
I do. I have the answers. All right, you ready?
I think that we should get back into.
So we've done a lot of work this year. We're doing EMT classes. We're doing Stop the Bleed classes. We're having civilians come take classes with our firefighters. I have a whole list of stuff I can get into. We're doing things that have never been done in our city before with our fire department. Our fire department's definitely going in the right direction. I can give you the breakdown of everything we're doing, or if you guys want to hop into some specific stuff. So, you know,
Councilman Jump want to hop into specifics, but before he do, so did we do in kind on that leak out there? And
So, yep. So any hazardous materials call, technical rescue call that we respond to outside the county, we have a form that itemizes everything we do, from personnel costs to equipment we use to what it would cost, the fraction of the usage of our vehicles. Everything that we do, we have an itemized bill that we get the.
okay, so our hazmat team didn't just go out there last weekend.
Yeah, we're going to submit a bill to the homeowner. Yes, ma'am. And then the way it works is that information is submitted by the fire department, and then they'll send that over to the finance department to collect it.
Okay.
So every time we have one, we try to do that. There's some situations where if it's in an area where we don't have anybody to bill, we won't, but we certainly try to when we can. So,
Thank you.
okay. So I'll just answer any questions you guys have.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit more on what page 194? Talk about the public education, because I think that is something that usually people are very interested in.
Okay.
Obviously, you projected there's cost taking at least 1% of the budget. Talk a little bit more about that. I know you've been doing a lot of great work around that area.
Yep. So 191.
194.
Okay.
My apologies.
So we have some indicators of what they do that are pretty generic, but our Fire Prevention Bureau, they're housed over in City Hall Commons. Not only are they doing public education, but they're also the same firefighters and staff that are tasked with permitting with Jake DeShaw. All the things they're doing, we're involved in that. Permitting for propane tanks, code enforcement. We have fire department obligations that they need to make sure we're doing with fire prevention, and public education is a huge part, and I'll get into the reason why later, but they have visitations, Fire Prevention Week. We have a newsletter that we put out. I'm not sure if you all are, I know I give you guys all our press releases, but I'm not sure you guys are not on the newsletter. I'll get you guys added to the newsletter. So we have a newsletter that goes out. We do evacuation planning, fire drills for apartment buildings like Toomey Abbott, all residential places that request it. And we have our website where now you can have requests for things like smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors if we have it. One of the key things we do every time we have an interaction is try to let people know that if you don't have smoke detectors, you need to let us know because we'll come install them. So in 2022, we installed 631 smoke detectors. That affected 287 residents. So far this year, we're at 219 smoke detectors installed, and that has already affected 148 residents. We applied for a grant. And we actually got it, and with that grant we're going to actually obtain 1,095 smoke detectors, 222 carbon monoxide detectors, and when we apply for the grant, we put data together to figure out which neighborhoods needed these smoke detectors the most. This data told us that the census blocks were 530002 and 16001. Both of these neighborhoods are both at high risk for both population and for the lack of smoke detectors. The one neighborhood is located on the south side. The other one is located on the north side up in the Lincoln Hill neighborhood. The other one on the south side is over on Cortland, South Ave, Kennedy, over in that area. The goal is to install as many smoke detectors because smoke detectors are the #1 thing somebody can do to protect them from dying in a fire and getting out in time. Our public education, we had a program we initiated. So after each structure fire, last year we had 79 structure fires. Last year we went on 25,000 alarms, which is over approximately half the 911 calls for Onondaga County, but we went on 80 major structure fires. After those fires, we put together pamphlets and we handed them out to all the neighbors on the street where the house was on fire to teach them about smoke detectors, how to get out if you need anything. We gave them the contact number. So we've been very proactive on trying to spread the public education out to everybody. We've been to 29 public educational events from this department, but out of the fire chief's office, we also go to a lot of TNT meetings, all the public meetings that are available, and we always try to explain to them about public education. The newsletter goes to 28 community organizations on the mailing list. I will get you all included on that. And then I have information about permitting, code enforcement, and right now we have current projects and community days they're looking at doing at Sankofa Park in May. They're looking at doing another fire safety prevention day up at Station 17. We're continuously attending neighborhood watch meetings. Like I said, we have a grant in right now to get a fire safety smoke trailer so we can teach kids how to get out of a fire safely, and we have a bunch of other programs that we have through our Fire Prevention Bureau. And they also, when they go places, they schedule the fire trucks that are on the front line. When they're not answering calls, they come over and supplement the different presentations and all those things that they're doing. So we're very proactive. And we need it in our city. Last year we had 5 fire civilians that died in fires. Our city, I don't talk about it that much, but our city is over the national average in civilians who die in fires. And when you go back to 2011, 2013, when we lost 6 on-duty firefighters, we lost 4 units, Engine 7, Engine 6. We lost 2 other units, Truck 1 and Rescue 2. The 2 or 3 years before those closures and reduction of manpower on duty, the year that they made the first close in 2011, there were 0 fire fatalities. The 2 years before that, there was only 1. Since then, since 2012, we averaged 4.4 fire fatalities every year. I don't talk about it a lot, and when I became the chief, there was a lot of things that I know we needed improvement for, but as we're looking to the future with all the economic development, with all the population growth, with the developmental center, downtown, university, all those things. I think I want to make sure everybody's aware of the things that bother me at nighttime that this is the first time I've ever talked about it in a public setting, but when we have a fire fatality, we send out the press release. We're pretty transparent about what happened. Our firefighters do a great job, but when you have the loss of resources that we've had over the last few decades, and we're still continuing to build and grow, we got to make sure our public safety and our fire department match the economic and development and population growth. So that's troubling, just knowing that we are on the wrong side of the national average for fire deaths from civilians, but we're doing our best to keep everything together. So
can we use that statement to the state when we want to get more AIM money, Director Rudd? Because that justification right there, if they just ignore us for more money, it's their fault.
If I had to send anybody to the state to get more AIM aid, I would send Mike Mons.
Yay. Mike, you're going.
Should I comment? I mean, all right, but certainly there's a lot of needs that we're working on and we're working through to provide the services. But like I said, as we move forward, we have to keep our eye on what's going to keep the firefighters and the civilians that we're sworn to protect safe, and that's my goal as a fire chief. And whoever is lucky enough to sit in the seat that I'm sitting in, I have a lot of plans and processes and things in place so they can come and hopefully they don't have to make too many adjustments over the long haul. But with Micron coming, the rezone that's looming.
Chief, as you go on about this, I mean, obviously it's sort of the perfect storm. I mean, we're all involved in trying to build new housing, and that would probably abate some of the problem, but we're stuck with older housing stock, unfortunately, and that's what you have to deal with all the time with some of these structural fires.
Yes.
Older house. I mean, I could just think. I mean, that awful fire up on Olive Street there, which really hurt that far west side. You guys did the best they could, and they always do. But I'm wondering about your overtime. It seems like you're budgeting less for overtime. Is that all the result of some scheduling, different scheduling, or?
This current fiscal year we're in, the requests that I asked for, I think we're projected to be within 1% of that for fiscal year 23. I put in a request. We go back and forth, and we try to prioritize the money that I receive to do all the services that we provide to keep our firefighters safe, to keep our constituents safe, and the money that I got in the budget and all the different lines, including overtime, we're going to do our best to make our services work that we've done last year.
You changed your work schedule, didn't you?
Yep, July 1st.
Does that have any effect on the overtime?
Negative.
None?
Negative. No, it shouldn't be any increase in cost. We went through the budget department, we did an analysis, and they're working the same amount of hours, they're just working a different schedule. Currently they work 48 hours over 8 days. The new schedule, they're working 48 hours over 8 days. They're just doing it in 24-hour shifts twice over 8 days instead of 2 10-hour shifts and 2 14-hour shifts over 8 days.
And that was the union was very receptive to that, and so were you. And
yes,
as far as effectiveness goes of the fire department.
Yes,
but it doesn't affect the overtime, because the overtime significantly lower what you're...
Yep, certainly. We had to make some tough decisions, and that was the area that was needed to be reduced instead of reducing. No matter if you tell me I have one firehouse and 8 fire trucks, I still need to buy all the tools, equipment to make sure the firefighters are safe. Brake pads, if hydraulic lines blow. We have tons of items that we need to purchase, so we're going to do our best to get through the year, and you know, I'm going to move things around to the best of my ability. And if it gets to the point where, and we've had this discussion in our budget meetings leading up to today, I'll go back to the budget director and the mayor's office and let them know that we're coming to a point where we got to get different funding to get us to the finish line. So that's the goal.
Well, I mean, obviously, what you said before, and all the councilors, I imagine, agree with you. If we're predicting, you can see that up on the east side right now with, in fact, went through the planning commission, Mr. Geiger's apartment building up there on East Genesee Street, be a whole new place. And we're going to experience a sort of a growth, certainly in population up in that area, and you don't really have a firehouse that you used to have one on East Fayette Street.
Yep, and I've met with the mayor multiple times, and the senior staff. We have a presentation to open up a firehouse. I think everybody's agreeable that we need it. Right where we're at now is that we need to figure out and explore the funding opportunities, and I welcome all the support when we find that funding, but if I had the funding, I would start operating that as soon as I can. It's like the training tower. Once I got the money, the training tower is done this Friday. We get the money, we spend it, it's done efficiently, and it's going to serve the city. And if I got funding for that, I would absolutely be able to make that work. We have things we're doing in the background besides meeting with the mayor about it. We currently have a SAFER grant that pays for 12 firefighters. We just applied for another SAFER grant, which is for another 20. I'm not sure if they're going to give us 2 SAFER grants at the same time, but I'm shooting every shot that I have to get to the finish line to make sure we can lighten the load on all the taxpayers. But
you're mixing a little metaphors there, shooting every shot.
No, we ain't gonna shoot no shots. We ain't gonna shoot no shots in here.
The rubber bullet. I miss when I shoot. Yeah.
But can I piggyback on what Councilor Hogan said? He's absolutely correct. And I'm going to say something, and probably won't agree with me, but it's okay. Because we have all of these private developers coming into the city. They're building all of these structural sky rises, and they're going to make profits off of it. And I'm going to say what I said a couple years ago. Why can't they basically put back the firehouse on Fayette Street, because that's where they're all located?
I'd be agreeable to that, Madam President.
Because they're making money. It's not like they're just building these apartments and not getting anything from it. They're making money off of that.
Yes.
So what type of investment are they putting back into our city? Because they're going to use our services, and we're not getting the money back. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand that.
I think that's kind of where I've been at, and I think after talking to the deputy mayor and the mayor, I think we're just figuring out, we definitely all agree that there's a need. How do we pay for it? That's the question that I was last left with. Is
same way they paying for them big old buildings they finna make all that money off of.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
You know, President Hudson, as usual, has a great idea. Maybe it's something that we probably should meet with CITA, that grants a lot of those pilot agreements to some of those big apartment houses.
Absolutely.
So maybe we could be some sort of financial vehicle that can spring out of there to capitally and finance a firehouse.
Okay.
You know, maybe we'll get together on that, President.
We can work on that, because I'm tired. We taking the hits for all of this stuff, and we're responsible, and we're supposed to be, because we're the fire department, but we're not asking them to come in here and build 8-story buildings. They're doing it because they want to, and because they want to make money. So let's put something back into the coffer, period. I'm going to be quiet today.
Doing good.
Let's start right now.
and just to piggyback on that, some of the buildings that they're building, if you go over on Foreman, University, Fayette, I mean, it's great, the development, but we have to change our operations. Our fire engines aren't built to pump water into certain buildings that are long and tall, so we're spending money to adjust some of our operations. So there's a lot of things that go into it. I've been worried about this since the day I've been the fire chief, but if you go talk to most of the rank and file that respond to these calls, we have to figure out something for the future.
You know, Chief, to President Hudson's point, I'm sure the rest of the councilors, but we're talking about, of course, respond to fires and any kind of alarms at Syracuse University. And our Commissioner of Assessment gave us a very interesting piece of advice and some information the other day, which shows that the Syracuse University has about $1 billion of assessed value. And of course, we get like $2 million, I think, as far as service fee out of there. And they were on, and I'm just spitballing here, but they were on the tax rolls, it'd probably be around $20 million. So maybe we should probably think about it, maybe some sort of service fee that we could ask Syracuse University to come through for us. Maybe even capitalize that firehouse.
So I appreciate the discussion. I think, you know, what the budget director and Mr. Frank Kaliva here, I think going to Syracuse University and asking people to give us money, it's got to be done a certain way. So can you say that again, sir?
We'll just capitalize it. Maybe.
Okay.
Keep in mind to also sentiment of the rest of you know, everybody here, colleagues, is my big concern is a lot of development, and I mentioned it before, and I'm just saying it again because it's on record. It's coming through, and I'm scared we're not prepared for what could happen. I hope it does not happen, but, you know, especially with fire and safety, you know, 81's coming through, new buildings are coming through, right? It's going to be a lot of traffic change, right? Things are coming down that once was brick, there's not going to longer be brick. So where things change, we have to be prepared for it. So I know you've been talking, you mentioned to Ben, but I know it's important, Mayor Walsh, that we figure out something. I don't want it to happen once something tragic happens. We want to be proactive because lives are more important than anything. And it's going to be billions of dollars coming through here, and we're not getting here. And we need to figure out how we can grab it so that we can get more fire departments in for safety.
Yeah, and it's what bothers me the most and keeps me up at night figuring how to get to that finish line. I have the plan to get there. It's just getting the mechanism to get there. So,
hey, Chief. Speaking of developments, what's the largest apparatus that we have, and how high does it go?
110. There's a 110-foot ladder. It's up on Station 9 on Shore Ave. So there's approximately 400 to 500 buildings that are 4 stories or higher. Anytime there's a reported fire, that particular truck is dispatched anywhere in the city to any structure that high.
Can I get an example of a building that it can reach?
It can reach 8 to 9 stories. Anything over that, we have to manually labor intensively, take all of our equipment up to 2 or 3 floors below the fire and fight the fire that way. So even fires on floors below that, the chances of you seeing a fire apparatus with the raised ladder spraying water on the building, it's a pretty bad fire when you see that. That means that the firefighters can't go in because the heat's too intense, the smoke's too intense, and if we can't go in, and if we didn't have an opportunity to make sure the citizens got out, then it's probably going to be a tragic situation if we're at a tall high-rise building and we're outside spraying water and not being aggressive and going inside. So the tower we have used to be downtown at Station 1 at 900 South State Street. It went to every dispatch to a fire that was over a certain story, but like I said, back in 2011, that particular unit was disbanded, and with that, the apparatus was past its useful life. So since 2011 all the way up until 2018, we never had anything that was over 90 feet. And then we bought this straight stick ladder in 2018. So it's been very useful. We've been cross-training them to do other things besides that, but that's the apparatus that we have. And we have another one that we have on order. I think it'll be here at the end of the year. So we're figuring out our operational plan to help meet these needs, but I just want to make sure that what we know we need, we can actually get there. So, and it's having more people on duty. We need more people to respond, to get to the scene, to identify, like I said earlier, identify what's going on, mitigate the hazard. And as some of these buildings, like I said, it's so labor intensive, you need more people to go to these fires. And at that same time, there are other alarms being dispatched throughout the city, and you need to have the flexibility of a fire going on. And sometimes we have 2 fires going on, and then you're pulling apparatus out of neighborhoods that are pretty underserved, not only by the fire department, by all other types of social issues, and those are coming over to help out. And that's the only way you can get to a good place. And
also, with that being said, I think I've seen in the paper, correct me if I'm wrong, that you guys also assisted DeWitt not too long ago.
Yep.
You did ask me that? I'm sorry I wasn't listening, but
yep.
I was. Yeah, you do, maybe. But up to now, how many other calls have you assisted with outside of the city?
I have to get that information, but last year in 2022, we went on 104 hazmat calls.
Okay.
I would say, you know what that is, Matt? About how many calls went outside the city for the hazmat? Say that again, half of them? So maybe half of them, but I will definitely get you the correct answer. So like I told Madam President Hudson, when we do respond outside the county, we are involved in a mutual aid plan with the county, but when we go, we're the only hazardous materials technicians in our county that has a company that can do the things we do. So the other day they had a propane tank that was leaking in the back of somebody's yard. Because there was so much propane left in it, we are the only ones that have special equipment to go burn off that flame. And I don't know if you saw it on our social media. Yeah. So nobody else could mitigate the hazard but us. And we are a 3-region hazardous materials team. We go to Oswego, all these different places. So we definitely need to figure out other sources of income from these places that we're helping out. But we actually asked the county. I sit on a fire advisory board that advises the county executive of fire situation items in the county. During that committee meeting, we requested $500,000 to help provide for some of these things. I don't know if it was ever brought to the forefront of their budget, but I'm always asking for money. As you all know, I'm always trying to get paid back, reimbursed. We've applied for $20-30 million of grants since I've been the chief. We've gotten $5 million, and it's paid for firefighters, tools, and equipment. So anytime I can get money, I'll get that money and be able to use it to provide better services. So that's my goal.
Thanks. Sorry to be repetitive, but you know.
So Chief, I want to go back to the first question and discussion we had about fatalities.
Yep.
With fires that result in fatalities, how many didn't have fire alarms?
I would have to go get that information for you. I got to go to our fire investigators, and we can get all that data of the buildings that we've had civilian fire fatalities and who had alarms and who didn't, and we get that information at all fires. So that's kind of what drove, especially when you go to a fire. A fatal fire is terrible for the family, the firefighters. It's one of the most traumatic things that they experience, but the neighbors that see this and have to come back and forth home every day to see a house that burned out, or if somebody died in a house, it's one of the most traumatic things that you witness. We see it all the time, but that's what drove Chief Davis to put together this program, that we go in these packets of information of fire safety, we go and hang them on their doors of all the neighbors. So as they're driving back and they see this house that was burnt out, when they go to their house, they have a packet of information. And if they don't understand it, they have our website on there, a telephone number, how to get in touch with us, so we can help prevent them from being in that same situation.
And the cost of those a year? Do we?
Smoke detectors?
Yes.
They're approximately, for one smoke detector, is approximately $16 to $18 now with inflation.
Buying is, you don't know that.
Every year we try to find money in a budget to buy smoke detectors out of our operating budget, but we're always applying to grants to try to get more funding through insurance companies, the state, or wherever we can get a grant from. We're trying to get more smoke detectors. But like I said, last year we installed over 600. We just, over the last decade, even before I was the chief, we've installed tens of thousands of smoke detectors in homes. And there's been fires where the day before we went and installed smoke detectors, it was over on Kennedy Street a few years ago. We installed smoke detectors. The very next day, there was a fireplace that caught the whole house on fire, and the only reason they got out was the smoke detectors that we installed days before. So I wish we knew everywhere that didn't have them, because we'd be out right now at every station installing them, but the not having the information and people not being educated enough to understand the need for them is a problem that is worldwide, but it's kind of what drives up some of these numbers. But sometimes, no matter what you do, you can have smoke detectors in people's houses and all those types of things, but people still are going to get injured and hurt and killed in these fires. So,
and I want to stay on that topic. For firefighters that get involved in those fatalities, what's your process of maybe wellness and
so
like that? And how many days after you automatically give them off? And
so we have so the EAP, which everybody knows now about, our firefighters union back in the early 80s was the first entity within the city to implement a EAP program, because they were worried about situations like this. But that EAP program has grown to what everybody knows now in the city. But on top of EAP, we have a 3-pillared behavioral health program, which is EAP, critical incident stress, and a behavioral health peer-driven program. So the critical incident stress, anytime there's a fire, a fatality, anytime there's a really bad fire, if 2 firefighters go on a medical call and there's a baby that they have to do CPR on, any type of traumatic call they go on, they're triggered on their own. They get a page. They all have pagers on their phones, or we have pagers from the 80s that we use, that they get a notification of what's going on. And before I could even think about, hey, are they getting help? They're great. I mean, I should have them come in and do a committee meeting with you. I mean, the stuff that they do. Matt Craner, our Captain Craner, he works up in my office now. He was our EAP coordinator, and he kind of helped drive and build the behavioral health program. The union's very, very much involved in it. It's a great program. And most times when people that are on duty go to a call like that, they don't want to go home. They want to stay and continue to work and be around their coworkers, but they're always given the option if things were too traumatic to go home. And then we try to make sure that they're okay to drive, and if we have to drive them home, we'll take somebody out of service and drive them, whatever we can do to make sure they're okay. But the program we have is, like I said, is peer-driven. The firefighters recognize each other if there's an issue, and they go and they get to the bottom of the situation. If they have to, I try to stay out of it, because the last thing I want to do is show up as a chief just because I have to wear all this stuff and seem like I'm coming at an administrative level, even though I just want to go to help. So I stay out of it so they can just take care of themselves, and if they need any resources, they know to call up to the chief's office, and we will get them whatever we can do to help.
Good.
I'm good. Are you good?
What about vacancies?
Vacancies. Right now we have 355 firefighters. We're budgeted for 368, so we have 13 vacancies. We currently have approximately 3 more firefighters that are saying they're going to retire this year. We already had 9. Currently, we have 64 firefighters that are eligible to retire this calendar year. At the beginning of next year, we're going to have 34 more firefighters eligible to retire, so we're going to be close to 100 firefighters that are eligible to retire. The way things are looking now, towards the end of the year, we're going to put a class on we're going to probably start canvassing over the next few months or so to hire a class, and we're hopeful to have them in the classroom by the fall, late fall, and to help us fill those vacancies. So right now we're 13 vacancies down. With the ability of 100 people to retire, we're probably looking at multiple classes over the next few years, and it's a time to train a lot of new firefighters and get them ready to help us serve the city.
Yes. Okay, Chief, I just want to ask you something about page 190, let's see, 98. I'm looking that in 2023, you had a fiscal officer, which 23, 24, you zeroed that out. And then if you go down, I'm trying to stay across the lines, I think it's an administrative analysis. It was one that's zeroed out.
Okay.
And then account clerk 2, you didn't have any in 22, 23, but you're adding 1.
So I'm not sure why this is reading this way. Maria Vigliotti, Allison Mondo, they transferred over to my department from other city departments late fall. They fall under the umbrella of finance, so I'm not sure why this is typed in our budget. They are.
Okay.
So, but so that's why it's saying unfunded, because we had a lot of discussions about it, and I saw it was in here, so I got right by my notes that the fiscal officer falls underneath the finance budget, but it's showing on our roster, but are we paying for that, or are you guys paying for that? Okay, all right.
Your budget
Yep. Okay.
And then the next question that I have as far as fire, which I think is pertinent to all the departments, how many on here are under SURA? Are there any under SURA?
We have none under SURA anymore, right? I believe that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Chief, I see that there are 22 captain,
Yes.
right, on page 195.
Yes.
How many of those are women?
We don't have any women captains. We have 14 females. We have one female district chief. She was the first ever female promoted to district chief back in 2018. The other 4 supervisors are lieutenants, and they're eligible to all take the captain's test, which is coming up June 24th. So out of the 14 females, 5 of them are supervisors, none of them are captains. So they have to pass the captain's test.
Is there anything we are doing to help them to get them ready at all internally?
So I handed out a professional development handbook that we put together this program back in 2021, and this plan was to ensure that there's a process in place that outlines succession development, succession planning, and leadership development. So this program basically gives everybody, no matter who you are, what you look like, what race, gender, it's the most equitable, inclusive program that I think a fire service in New York State has ever seen. I have fire chiefs calling across the state asking for a template of this program. When I became a firefighter, you just came on, and if you were a senior firefighter, I just learned from you. There was no national certifications, there was no state certifications. The classes that are involved in this handbook, state-sponsored classes, nationally sponsored classes, those classes derive a lot of the questions that are in the promotional test. So if you never took those classes, you don't know a lot of the information that is outside of what you're being told by your senior firefighters. So we put together this program, and as you can see, there's two packets that I have. One is the whole handbook, and like I said, I'm meeting the State Office of Fire Prevention and Control on May 1st to explain how we got there with this program. And this is a unique program because what we do is we're encouraging firefighters to actually take all these classes that, like I said, the information in those classes not only help us respond to our constituents, but it also gives them the the books and the reading material that shows up on a lot of the promotion tests. So nobody's pushing anybody to take these classes. They gotta want to take the classes, and if they take these classes along with all the other things that are involved, they should be in a better position to actually score higher on the promotion test. Since 2018, I think we had a 300, once this program was instituted in 2021, last year in 2022, we had 380% increase in all firefighters taking these types of classes. If you look at the statistics, we're leading the state in every type of training that is administered to fire service departments. So right now there's a situation where when I came on, there are barriers, right? There's these barriers when you have these hierarchy of needs, and there's this pyramid of how you accomplish things that I study all the time. There's things that when you want to get to a goal, when you can't get there, what are the barriers? And so as my job, when I'm talking about things like this, like a career development program, which is the first ever in our department, is to figure out what are the barriers that stand in people's way that shouldn't be there. Like when I got hired, I didn't have any access, so removing the lack of knowledge of how you get these classes, I remove that barrier because it's all right here in the handbook. How you go sign up to take the classes. In our training division, and a lot of the members that were helping me organize this, they're hand walking a lot of our members through because it's a whole cultural change of how we're trying to be more professional.
So when you talk about culture, I just want to ask you this: when you talked about equity, so when you talk about the fire department with you have 353 firefighters, right?
Yes.
So, and I'm not just talking, when I talk about diversity, I'm not just talking about black folks. I'm talking about everybody. So what's the diversity within the fire department?
So out of the 355 firefighters we have 64 black firefighters, 3 Hispanic. We have 14 females right now. And my whole existence on the fire department, back when I was hired in 2020, the focus was always on black firefighters because of the consent decree. Black firefighters and females. There was, in the fire department consent decree, there's no language about trying to increase the numbers of any other ethnicity, races. So
we need to, I think, start looking at that in a different way, because when you talk about our city, we are a very diverse city with a lot of cultures in our city. And I think that for us it would be beneficial to start looking at how to bring in other minority groups.
Yes, and Madam President, so when a test is getting ready to be given, there has been no department, I don't believe anywhere, that has recruited, put the effort and time into making sure my recruitment team is diverse, that goes out to the crevices and crooks of our city, barbershops, go in to meet the basketball coaches. I put out a wide net, right? And, you know, we were even meeting with Chol on the north side. I think I hit pretty much, I know I'm not perfect. I know there's always room for improvement, but so we can do all that and we get as many people as we can to sign up for the test, but there's always going to be the barrier of the civil service test, right? And I sit on 2 committees for help developing those tests, and in 2018, working with the New York State Civil Service, we sat down and we paid our 28 of our firefighters overtime, and they took a new test because downstate there was a consent decree issue, either that there was some lawsuits that the consent decree was keeping people from getting hired, so the state wanted to revamp the test, so our firefighters sat down, females, all diverse firefighters that we have, and they figured out what type of questions needed to be added to the test or removed from the test.
So when you were talking to them, I mean, and since you do sit on that committee or board or whatever, so outside of just the civil service and revamping it, I think the civil service, and I hope the county and the state and whoever hears me, outside of the civil service, it needs to be different languages included in that civil service test as well.
That's a great point, and I will bring it up. We brought up a lot of suggestions. There's an entrance level exam, and then there's all the series of promotional exams. But that particular entrance exam that was changed in 2018, the first test in 2019, produced the most diverse test scores at a high level than this department has ever seen. And because of that, we've hired 3 of the most diverse classes that our department's ever seen. Because we changed that test, we've hired approximately, I believe, 41.77% of all of the classes that I've hired has been the most diverse pretty much in our history. It has all been driven by changing that test. It's like a SAT, those standardized tests, they have certain biases. They don't meet the work that's actually being done by the firefighters. So the work we did and that committee, the work our firefighters did to help with that testing, it's just a slow-moving process, you know, and then you got to have people that actually, no matter what, you can be prepared for an exam, as you all know, and you can still think you did well, and you scored a 60.
Because I heard you say New York State. New York State ought to be more receptive because they have a whole melting pot down there.
I will bring that. Well, New York City has their own testing system, so everything outside of New York City, they don't even have the New York State Civil Service test, so they have a different testing system for the fire department, at least. So they have a different battery of tests.
It's so impressive that you have all that data so quickly for us, though, because we don't always hear that. I mean, you can feel your passion around diversity, so thank you for that. From
it's my life.
All of us, right?
That's great.
Yep. So.
Nottingham? Oh, that makes up for Rashida.
All right. So.
Don't shoot high.
Who would, what, don't play with Nottingham? We don't play about the Bulldogs.
Listen, you two, y'all ain't ready.
I mean, if there was no consent decree, I would probably not have this job. I would not be in the position I'm in now to try to help as many people as I can. That consent decree is, I think, the reason why I was hired. And so there's a lot of issues with the consent decree, like what, I mean, it was focused on one race. There's tons of improvement we can do. I mean, I got a million things on the plate, but that's one thing that will always be at the center of the plate whenever I can try to make improvements.
You have 2 years. Get on it.
Right.
Other questions? No. Okay. Well, Chief, I want to thank you with all your staff.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. WCNY, that will do it for us. Thank you.